As the regulars know, we're working on the precepts now. I've been going through the things that we have on our computer about the precepts, and it's interesting that every time the precepts are written, they're a little bit different from one version to the next. So I think one of my jobs is going to be to make it all be the same, because it looks like what we've been doing is we try to throw in extra things. We're making the precepts more difficult, but we're throwing in based on different versions, because the Buddha wrote about the 5 precepts in some of his teachings where he's talking specifically to someone. And so sometimes they're different because it was so simple then. Somebody would just, it wasn't a ceremony, or it might be different every time he talked to someone. But it's interesting how we throw, like when you get to the 8, we're throwing in 2 or 3 things in what's one precept in the 5. So we've talked about the 5, and we've talked about the 8, and now we're on the 10 Bodhisattva vows, which are really interesting, really wonderful. The 10 Bodhisattva vows is something that's kind of been added to the precepts. And when we think of bodhisattvas, we often think of the Mahayana tradition, because those images are all, the bodhisattvas are more symbolic images of qualities. And so all the beautiful Tibetan paintings that we see have the, if it's someone who's compassion, it's like the Avalokiteshvara, which is also Kuan Yin, who's outside. Sometimes that image has 1,000 hands. So that 1,000 hands behind the figure really represents that person's ready to reach out and help anyone, anywhere. So we don't use those images as much in our Theravadan tradition, but now we have the Kuan Yin who's right outside, that's the Chinese name for the same bodhisattva. But and all of us know that was a gift for people who are. I know we've got a lot of visitors tonight. That statue is of a bodhisattva, the bodhisattva of compassion. But she came from some students in Malaysia, and so she's called Kuan Yin, which is her Chinese name, and they sent her over here. Or we call Kuan Yin usually a her, but bodhisattvas are not a he or a she, although this one looks a lot like Mary. So whenever you see Kuan Yin, it will often look like the Virgin Mary. So she's holding a vase in her hands, and that's her elixir that will heal. It's an elixir for good health and well-being. And then there's usually a big, not a flower, but a stalk of something in her hand. And I can't remember right now what the stalk is, what it's a branch of. So she's about healing the ills of the world. So she's there. So the Bodhisattva vows in Pali are called the 10 Paramitas. So they're the 10 qualities that are part of the training to become a Buddha. And they're actually these 10 qualities are what we talk about all the time. So whether you take the Bodhisattva vows or not, or the 10 Paramitas, everything we talk about is about these 10 qualities. So the nice thing about having them all together in one collection, and all traditions use pretty much the same 10. What they do when they're together is it gives us something that's easier for us to work with. So when you take the 10 paramitas, they can become the 10 qualities that you can focus. They're 10 training qualities to being a really good human being and eventually to becoming a Buddha. So but does anybody know them all? I think I know them all now. It's only taken me how many years? So, the first one is generosity. And think about these as I mention them, and I'll just say a little bit about them, but think of how you see yourself encountering and working with these qualities whenever you're practicing or in your life now, or that you hear in talks or in the stuff you read. Think about how often you hear these talked about, or even in our chanting. So the number one quality is generosity. And there are a lot of reasons for that being number one. But one of the main reasons generosity is so important is that generosity is when we first, we teach little kids to be generous, to share their toys. Generosity is one of the first ways we learn to start not holding on such a tight grip to ourself, to that self. We let go of ourself when we share our things, when we give things to other people, and when we're doing that, we're relinquishing that hold on this is mine, and we're starting to recognize that, those are the concepts of me and mine. This is who I am. Belongs to me. We start being able to let go of those kind of concepts. So it helps us realize the connections that we have with all other beings when we begin to be generous. The second one is I undertake the training in the quality of virtue. And virtue refers to what we call the precepts, the 5 precepts. And again, that's our understanding of being harmless, doing no harm to living beings. So we undertake the training not to take life. The second one is we undertake the training not to steal. The third one is we undertake the training not to engage in sexual misconduct. So sexual misconduct is harming someone or harming ourselves. And it's so we're not saying there's anything wrong with sex and sexuality in our lives. It's the misuse of it or the harmful use of it towards ourselves or someone else. The third one is I need to do the fourth and the fifth of the 5 precepts. So the fourth is to not tell a falsehood, not to tell a lie. So it's the beginning of working with our speech, because we add 3 or 4 more in our next set of precepts. But we begin with speaking honestly, not telling lies. And the 5th one is not to become heedless with intoxicants or drugs. So that heedlessness is just totally opposite the mindfulness that we're always trying to develop. So it's not, I think of that heedlessness and that kind of intoxication is the way we when we want to zone out, when we want to I need a break from all this. I'm going to space out. I'm going to zone out. So maybe I'll just have an extra glass of wine, or do a little recreational drugs, or sit in front of my TV and watch Netflix, or I'll eat ice cream all night, or I'll go shopping and spend a lot of money that I really shouldn't be spending, or we all have those things that are our intoxicants. The things that cause us to be mindless or heedless. Sometimes we just feel like, I deserve this because I've worked hard this week, or I've been through a hard situation. But those are the times we need to try to, with determination, stay 1 foot in front of the other, and not. We can certainly relax, but we don't need to become heedless and totally drop off for a while. So those are the 5. So the second of the Bodhisattva vows is training in the quality of virtue. So that includes all of that, our behavior, our thoughts, our behavior, and our actions. So the third one is I undertake the quality of renunciation. So renunciation includes three things. So renunciation includes that quality of letting go of the things that we don't need to stay, that we don't need to have in our lives, like the unnecessary parts. But it also means renunciation in terms of being a compassionate person and having the quality of loving kindness in our lives. So that's included in that. The fourth one is to undertake the quality of wisdom. Wisdom that begins with understanding and really seeing in motion in the world the Four Noble Truths. To really understand that this is the reason for suffering, the reason for that dissatisfaction in life. It's from not recognizing the true nature of the world, of the way things are in this world. So we try to cling to things that are impermanent, and that causes suffering because we're not acknowledging or accepting the fact that all conditioned things are impermanent. And their nature is to rise, fall away, go back. So that's what we're trying. The first part of wisdom that we work with is understanding that and realizing that it's not the desire for things that's a problem. It's the clinging to them that's the problem. Desire is natural. It's part of our it's the way we work as animals. That desire keeps us alive. But when we decide that we have to have something and we don't ever want it to leave, or when we want to push things away that we don't like and think that we can do that, we're being ignorant. We're living in delusion. And so what happens when we have that ignorance about we can all look around and see the nature of the world. If we really are students of nature, we see all of this just, watching outside our front door, or front window. We see that everything has that cycle of life and death. We see that nothing's permanent. The seasons change. And then we see that our own bodies change. So we're all of that nature. The things we have to remember that the Buddha talked about a lot was we have to remember we're all of the nature to grow old, to become sick, and to die. So that's just the way this world and this life is. So the more we are in harmony with that, the less we suffer. That means we don't clutch on and hang on to things so heavily, so tightly. We feel everything. We're sad when we lose someone. We're sad when we see ourselves losing, the ability to sit on the floor, or the ability to run fast, or we don't like seeing ourselves grow older or getting sick. And we can't fight it. The reason is not we don't want to delude ourselves into thinking that we can change that. But if you think about it, the world is full of people trying to change that. And you think of you cannot avoid seeing all the advertisements for makeup and hair coloring and gyms and ways to live to be over 100, or people are saying there's no reason people have to die. We can extend life to go on forever. I can't imagine anything worse than that. But we see that's I'm sure there are scientists that's what they're working on, and the fountain of youth and things that think of the billions of dollars that are spent on face creams and makeup and things to help people keep looking younger. So that's the opposite of what wisdom is. It's great to look your best and to look wonderful. And everything is in moderation. But you see all the time people who are trying to live in denial of the real laws of nature. And it eventually becomes not attractive, no matter how hard they try. It eventually starts to crack. So that's true wisdom, is understanding the nature of the world that we live in. So the fifth quality is energy. And energy and determination sometimes seem a little close, like they're close to me. But and when we talk about energy, and the Pali word is vidya, that's really energy and effort and strength. So that's literally the physical energy that we put into doing something. So it's when we set that good intention to do anything, we have to motivate ourselves to move ourselves to do it. So it's literally that energy to come here, to sit. Because sitting in meditation isn't like going to sleep or taking a nap. It takes your energy to sit quietly and still and stay with your breath and that's and we're moving in the world all the time. We're not following a path that says separate from the world and just sit in your house and meditate. Meditation is just the way we train, and then we go out and literally walk our path, live our path. Patience is the next one. It's number 6. Patience is very important. It's important because patience is a way we deal with a lot of our difficult emotions. When we're experiencing anger, patience can be a way to really work with anger. Just think, I'm not getting my way right now. I'm not the person I'm angry with is not doing something to me right now. I'm just impatient with. It's like someone coming home and the dishes haven't been washed, right? So your roommate or your child or your partner was supposed to wash the dishes and they're not washed. So we can choose to get angry, but if we throw some patience in with what we feel rising up, we can realize, my timetable was the dishes would be done before I got home. But with some patience, we can see maybe that just wasn't that person's timetable. We can work with it a little differently. And many bigger issues, we have to be patient with ourselves. A lot of times we become critical and angry with ourselves because we're not meditating long enough, or we're not as good as we think we should be by now, or we're judgmental and hard on ourselves. And that's where we probably see the need for the most patience to begin with. Be patient with yourself. That's part of loving kindness. It has to be, you have to practice it towards yourself before you can experience the benefits and then see how good it would be to extend those qualities out to others. Truthfulness. So, the quality of truthfulness is, it seems obvious, doesn't it? But it's not, is it? Because, so many times people really think it's okay not to be truthful. So I think it's much more than just not telling lies. And it's much more than even our speech, the quality of truthfulness. A lot of truthfulness is about being honest with ourselves, not deluding ourselves, because we know that delusion is the great kind of cause underlying all samsara, all of this wheel of life. It's our basic ignorance about the way things work. And so truthfulness is trying to really always be open to seeing what really is. And not being afraid of that, not having any, I think also not having fear about it. It's just opening up to okay, the way things really are is not like the way I want them to be right now. But let's deal with what really is. But with gentleness and love and patience. The next one is determination. And this determination is that different from energy. Determination is that resolution that we have, that I'm going to accomplish something or I'm going to do something. It's not about setting goals or making plans that then we get upset if we don't meet those goals. Determination is just, I'm going to keep going. No matter what, I'm going to get through this rough patch, or no matter what, I'm going to keep taking the right steps, take the next right step. Sounds like the 12 steps, doesn't it? Very similar. Loving kindness is number 9. And loving kindness is that ability to send goodwill, to send friendliness, both to ourselves and to all others. And we just develop it within ourselves. We extend it out until it's just who we are. We don't have to work with it all the time. It just becomes just our natural practice. But we have to start with ourselves. And that can be, sometimes we may need to stay with ourselves for quite a while if we have a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism. It's okay to just practice loving kindness toward yourself. Work with that. And then when you feel ready, then begin to extend it out to others. Then it'll be more genuine, because you see that if it's hard for you to take care of yourself, to be kind, to have a friend in yourself, you understand how hard it is for other people too. So just working with yourself, you can develop that compassion towards others. And the last one is our favorite, equanimity. Equanimity is that, was it in this group or it was Wednesday? Someone had looked it up in the dictionary. So equanimity, we always talk about being the balance that we're always wanting to come to, but the dictionary definition is keeping a level head in the face of difficult situations. So I love that level-headed, that term, being level-headed. So I keep imagining that level on if you have the old ones had the little bubble in the middle, so if you had a level. So I think of that little bubble in the middle as our level head. So no matter how, that's equanimity, because no matter how rough things get, we know through the Buddha's teachings and through what we see in the world, we know those bad times will be over, and then we'll go into a period where things might be great. Then that will end. Maybe things will be nice and neutral for a while, and then suddenly, it starts swinging both ways. So equanimity is when we realize we can always come back to the center. We can always be that level head. It doesn't protect us from having difficult times and experiencing loss and sadness and anger and depression and everything else. We're not becoming immune to that, but we're learning a way to deal with it and to have it be a way to work with it, so we can have peace in this life. And even when we're in those difficult times, we know we can come back. That we will come back, and so we make it through. And equanimity is the last one on the list, because it's the one that's probably the one that's closest to actually becoming enlightened, because it's really getting rid of all those. When you have equanimity, you don't have viewpoints, so you're never taking things personally. You don't have nothing rattles you, because you're not taking on all the other stuff that's floating around out there. you're your own level head. So you're at the center, and everything else you can see is just being out there around you. It doesn't have to sway you. So those are the 10. And today I was talking to someone in Las Vegas, and she recommended a book in addition to the ones that we have for the precepts, and it's called Living Life as Spiritual Practice, and it's by someone named Jean Smith. Have any of you heard of it? She really recommended it, and it's Allison who comes here from that group, so I know she's read the other books. But she says it's a more concise book, and she can take, like she was reading Patience today. That's what she's working with. So she reads the few pages about it, and then she can be more aware of that quality when she's studying it, and just kind of see things in her everyday life that relate to it, and can see how frequently it's a part of our lives, and it can make or break a day, right? So her daughter just had a baby. She said it was good to be working with patients, because the way the hospitals are, the baby didn't get out of the hospital till about midnight. The hospitals let the baby be in the hospital 24 hours after they're born. So no matter what time the baby's born, 24 hours later they have to leave. So her daughter and son-in-law were signing papers and everything about 11 o'clock at night. So it just made everybody involved very tired. So the two parents were home the next day. But the mother and the in-laws were all helping with the other baby they have. So Allison thought patience was a perfect lesson for her. Okay, I can't talk anymore. I've lost my voice completely. So I know that book's on Amazon though. So as before, remember that goal table has the precept sign. It's the pre-precept sign-up sheet. I don't think I had it Monday night. So you don't have to make a commitment to the precepts, but the pre-precept sheet, oh, thank you. Thanks, Monte. The pre-precept sheet is so you can get more information about the precepts before we do the classes. Or if you have a lot of questions, we can have some meetings during this month where we can answer the questions. So then you can sign the precept list. That means you want to commit to taking the precepts. And then we always have a class for the precept takers closer to the precepts. And that's talk about, if you need to wear special clothes or how we do it. And this year we'll have an application for everyone who wants to take the precepts. So, any questions? The author is Jean Smith, Jean. I think the title is Living Life as Spiritual Path. It may be Life as a Spiritual Path. I have it all on my phone. So, check it out.